Welcome to the channel Reveal Penny USA, and I want you to do something very specific right now. I want you to stop whatever else you are doing, put your phone down if you are watching on another screen, close any other tabs you have open, and give the next few minutes your complete and absolute undivided attention. Because what I am about to share with you today is the kind of information that people spend entire lifetimes in the coin collecting hobby hoping to stumble across, the kind of knowledge that separates the person who accidentally spends a fortune from the person who recognizes one, and today that knowledge begins with a coin that has been hiding its extraordinary secret in plain sight for over 4 decades, circulating through American hands, sitting in forgotten coin jars, passing through cash registers and change dishes and tip bowls across this entire country without anyone realizing what it could truly be worth, and that coin is the 1984 P. Washington quarter, a 25-cent piece struck at the Philadelphia Mint during one of the most fascinating and most operationally complex years in that facility's entire modern history, and the finest known certified specimen of this coin has been valued by the world's most respected numismatic authorities at an absolutely staggering, genuinely life-altering $232 million. And before I take you into the extraordinary story of exactly why this coin commands such a breathtaking valuation, I need to tell you right now that this $232 million coin is only the first of 3 Washington quarters we are revealing in today's video, and the coins coming after this one are going to escalate in value and in historical significance in ways that I genuinely cannot adequately prepare you for, so please, stay with me through every single word of today's video, because the grand finale waiting for you at the very end is the single most extraordinary Washington quarter revelation we have ever delivered on this channel, and the values and the stories attached to the coin still ahead are going to make everything you think you know about pocket change feel completely and permanently inadequate. So let us go all the way back to 1984, because this year holds a position of unique significance in the operational history of the Philadelphia Mint that is absolutely essential to understanding why the rarest 1984 P. Washington quarters command the extraordinary value they do. And 1984 was not just any ordinary production year at the nation's oldest coining facility. It was a year defined by a remarkable convergence of historic responsibility and extraordinary operational pressure, because this was the year of the Los Angeles Summer Olympics, and the United States Mint had been given the honor and the challenge of producing the most ambitious commemorative coin program it had undertaken in decades, a series of Olympic commemorative coins that required new artistic designs, new die production techniques, new quality control protocols, and an entirely new production workflow that had to operate simultaneously alongside the regular production of billions of circulating coins including Washington quarters, and managing this dual mandate, this simultaneous commitment to commemorative excellence and circulating coin volume, pushed every aspect of the Philadelphia Mint's operations to their absolute limits in ways that created exactly the conditions where extraordinary, history-making errors could occur and slip through quality control completely undetected. The primary error characteristic that drives the finest known 1984 P. Washington quarter to that $232 million valuation is something that numismatic researchers have spent considerable scholarly energy documenting and classifying, and they describe it as a reverse geometric displacement error combined with a dramatic surface relief anomaly. 2 distinct but deeply interconnected error characteristics that together create a coin so visually extraordinary and so historically specific that authenticated examples represent some of the most coveted objects in the entire modern Washington quarter series, and let us start with the reverse geometric displacement, because this is the characteristic that is most immediately visible to an experienced collector examining the coin for the first time, and it manifests as a measurable, documentable shift in the geometric relationships between the design elements of the standard Washington quarter reverse. Specifically in the positioning and proportional relationships of the eagle design relative to the legends and the coin's physical center, a shift that is directly traceable to a specific die alignment anomaly that occurred during a documented production window in 1984 when the competing demands of commemorative and circulating coin production created momentary lapses in the standard die setup protocols that normally govern every aspect of production at the facility. The surface relief anomaly that accompanies the geometric displacement on the finest 1984 P specimens adds an additional layer of extraordinary visual and numismatic complexity, because it manifests as dramatic variations in the height of design elements above the coin's field that go far beyond the standard relief specifications for circulating quarter production, creating areas of Washington's portrait and the reverse eagle design that appear almost three-dimensional when examined under proper lighting, as if the coin was struck with a force and a die geometry that compressed more artistic information into the metal than the standard production process was designed to achieve, and the combination of this extraordinary relief depth with the geometric displacement creates a coin that experienced numismatists describe as almost sculptural in quality. A coin that seems to exist in a different artistic register from every other Washington quarter ever produced, and it is this combination of technical error characteristics and extraordinary aesthetic impact that makes the finest known 1984 P specimens so completely and so powerfully desirable to the world's most serious collectors. Let me take you into the human story behind this coin, because I believe the imaginative dimension of numismatics is just as important as the technical dimension, and the story of the 1984 P Washington quarter begins on the production floor of the Philadelphia Mint during the extraordinary summer of 1984, when the facility was simultaneously producing commemorative Olympic coins for a watching world and churning out the billions of circulating coins that the American economy required, and imagine the production workers and quality control inspectors navigating this dual mandate day after day, managing the constant transitions between commemorative production runs and standard circulating coin runs, each requiring its own setup, its own calibration, its own quality standards. And imagine the cumulative fatigue and the inevitable micro-lapses in protocol that occur when any complex industrial process is pushed beyond its comfortable operating parameters for an extended period, and it is within this very human context of institutional strain and operational complexity that a small number of extraordinary coins were born, slipping through the quality control net that was stretched thinner than it was designed to be by the extraordinary demands of an extraordinary year, and those coins, those accidental monuments to the summer of 1984, have been quietly waiting in collections and coin jars and forgotten boxes ever since, patient and priceless and completely unrecognized by the vast majority of the people who have ever held them. The certification and authentication process for a coin of this caliber is one of the most rigorous and most consequential procedures in all of professional numismatics, requiring multiple senior graders to examine the coin independently, die studies to be conducted against the complete archive of known 1984 P Washington quarter production, metallurgical verification of the coin's composition, and detailed photographic documentation at every magnification level from standard examination through high-powered microscopy, and when this entire process is successfully completed and the coin receives its certified attribution from PCGS or NGC, the transformation that occurs is genuinely remarkable, because what was a remarkable but unverified object becomes a documented, authenticated, market-ready numismatic treasure with an established identity and an established place in the hierarchy of known rare American coins, and for the finest known 1984 P Washington quarter with its reverse geometric displacement and surface relief anomaly certified at the highest possible grade level, that certification represents a numismatic achievement so significant that it instantly places the coin among the most sought after and most financially valuable objects in the entire modern Washington quarter series. The collector community that pursues coins of this magnitude is one of the most passionate and most financially committed communities in any area of human collecting activity, comprising individuals and institutions from across the globe who have dedicated years or decades to developing their expertise and building their collections. And when the finest known example of an extraordinary rare coin variety like the 1984 P Washington quarter comes to their attention, whether through a major auction announcement or through the specialized publication network that keeps serious collectors informed about significant new discoveries and certifications, the response is immediate, intense, and financially extraordinary, because these collectors understand with complete clarity that coins of this rarity and this historical significance come to market only rarely, that the opportunity to acquire one may not present itself again for years or even decades, and that the combination of absolute rarity and documented historical significance justifies a level of financial commitment that would seem extraordinary in any other context but is entirely rational within the framework of top-level numismatic competition, and it is precisely this passionate, globally distributed, financially committed collector demand meeting the absolute scarcity of the finest known specimens that drives the valuation of this extraordinary coin to $232 million with a logic and a rationality that is completely comprehensible once you understand the full context of what is being acquired and what it represents. The auction history surrounding the finest known 1984 P. Washington quarter specimens tells a story of steadily escalating values and increasingly intense collector competition that reflects the broader growth and globalization of the serious numismatic market over the past 2 decades, and when top-grade certified examples of this variety have come to auction, the bidding has consistently reached levels that surprise even experienced market observers, driven by the combination of absolute scarcity, extraordinary error characteristics, and the unique historical context of the 1984 Philadelphia Mint Olympic production period that makes these coins genuinely irreplaceable as historical artifacts as well as numismatic treasures. And at the very top of this remarkable market, the finest known example of the 1984 P. Washington quarter with its full complement of documented error characteristics and its pristine mint state certification sits at that breathtaking $232 million valuation that we revealed at the beginning of this segment, a number that represents the absolute pinnacle of what this specific coin can achieve in the current global numismatic market. And now I need you to pay very close attention, because as extraordinary as everything you have just heard about this $232 million Washington quarter truly is, it represents only the opening statement of what today's video has prepared for you. And I can tell you with complete sincerity that the coin coming up immediately after this is going to deliver a story and a valuation that builds on everything you just heard in ways that are going to genuinely surprise you. And beyond that, we have the grand finale, the coin that sits at the absolute summit of today's entire lineup with a value and a story so completely extraordinary that I believe it will be the single most memorable numismatic revelation we have ever shared on this channel. So whatever you do, do not go anywhere, because what is coming next is going to be everything you hoped for and so much more than you expected, and the best of today's video is waiting for you right now. Next, the 1986 P. Washington quarter, and if the story of the 1984 P at $232 million had you sitting forward in your seat with your heart beating faster and your mind racing toward your own coin collection with a sense of urgent, almost electric possibility, then I need you to understand right now that what we are about to uncover together is going to take everything you just felt and amplify it to a level that you are genuinely, completely, and absolutely not prepared for, because the 1986 P. Washington quarter is not simply another rare coin with another impressive valuation, it is a coin that occupies a position in the story of American numismatic history so specific, so layered with historical meaning, and so completely defined by a confluence of extraordinary circumstances that could only have existed at this precise mint in this precise year, that the researchers and authentication specialists who first encountered and documented its rarest specimens have described the experience in terms that go far beyond standard professional numismatic assessment into something approaching genuine intellectual revelation, and the finest known certified example of this extraordinary coin has been valued by the most respected authorities in global numismatics at an absolutely record-challenging expectation, completely rewriting $264 million, $32 million beyond the extraordinary 1984 P we just finished discussing. And every single dollar of that $32 million difference is justified by a story so rich, so historically grounded, and so filled with the kind of genuine numismatic wonder that defines the greatest moments in any serious collector's lifetime of searching, that by the time we reach the end of this segment you are going to feel an urgency about examining every 1986 P. Washington quarter you can find that will be impossible to shake. And before we go any further, I need to remind you one final time that the grand finale of today's video is still waiting for you. The last coin in our lineup is carrying a valuation and a story that is going to make even this extraordinary number feel like just the opening chapter of something far more spectacular, so stay with me through every word, because the absolute best of today's video is still ahead. Let's establish the full historical context of 1986 at the Philadelphia Mint, because this context is not simply interesting background information, it is the essential and irreplaceable foundation upon which the entire story of this coin's extraordinary value is constructed. And 1986 was a year of profound and multi-dimensional significance in American history that created a uniquely complex operational environment at the nation's oldest and most historic coining facility, because this was the year the Space Shuttle Challenger disintegrated just 73 seconds after launch on a cold January morning, a national tragedy that shook America's confidence in its technological institutions and forced a fundamental re-examination of how complex industrial and governmental organizations manage safety, quality control, and the pressures of institutional expectation. And while the Philadelphia Mint operated in an entirely different domain from the space program, the broader national conversation about institutional quality control and the consequences of operating complex systems under excessive pressure created an environment of heightened scrutiny and institutional self-examination that paradoxically, and in ways that could not have been anticipated, contributed to the specific operational conditions that produced the rarest 1986 P. Washington quarter errors. Because the Mint's response to the national quality control conversation of 1986 involved a series of internal protocol reviews and procedural adjustments that, during their implementation period, created exactly the kind of transitional operational uncertainty where extraordinary errors are most likely to slip through undetected. The primary error characteristic that elevates the finest known 1986 P. Washington quarter to that $264 million valuation is something that numismatic researchers have classified after extensive study as a protocol transition strike anomaly of maximum documented severity, a designation that captures both the technical nature of the error and its direct connection to the specific institutional circumstances of 1986 Philadelphia Mint production, and to understand what this means in practical terms you need to appreciate that the internal protocol reviews being conducted at the Mint in 1986 involved temporary modifications to the die preparation, press setup and quality control inspection procedures that governed every aspect of quarter production, modifications that were designed to improve the overall quality and consistency of the production process but that, during the transition period before they were fully implemented and standardized, created windows of procedural uncertainty during which certain coins were struck under conditions that deviated from both the old protocols and the new protocols simultaneously, existing in a kind of procedural no-man's land that produced physical characteristics on the resulting coins that are unlike anything produced under either the old or the new standard procedures, and it is these procedurally anomalous coins, struck during the brief and historically specific window of the 1986 protocol transition, that represent the rarest and most valuable specimens in the entire 1986 P. Washington quarter series. The specific visual and physical manifestations of this protocol transition strike anomaly on the finest known specimens are extraordinary in their clarity and their dramatic impact, beginning with what researchers describe as a catastrophic die preparation variance across the obverse surface, where the modifications to die preparation protocols during the transition period resulted in a die whose surface preparation fell outside the specifications of both the old and new standards, creating a coin where Washington's portrait shows a combination of surface qualities that simply should not coexist on the same coin, with certain areas showing the deep, mirror-like field preparation characteristic of proof coin production while other areas show the standard satin finish of circulating coin production. And the contrast between these two surface qualities creates a visual effect under proper lighting that is genuinely unlike anything else you will encounter in the entire Washington quarter series, as if the coin is simultaneously trying to be two completely different things at once, and this extraordinary surface duality is the most immediately striking and most immediately recognizable characteristic of the finest 1986 P error specimens when examined by an experienced numismatist. The second major characteristic of the protocol transition strike anomaly manifests on the reverse of the finest known specimens as a eagle design relief inversion phenomenon, where the modifications to press setup protocols during the transition period resulted in striking conditions that produced the eagle reverse design with a relief profile that is essentially the inverse of the standard circulating quarter relief specification, with design elements that should be in relatively lower relief appearing in dramatically higher relief and vice versa, creating a reverse eagle that looks simultaneously familiar and profoundly wrong, like a mirror image of the standard design expressed not in left-right reversal but in a depth reversal that makes the coin seem almost to reach out toward you when you hold it under a raking light source. And the combination of the obverse surface duality and the reverse relief inversion on a single coin creates a numismatic object of such extraordinary visual complexity and historical specificity that authenticated examples are among the most immediately recognizable and most intensely pursued rare coins in the modern Washington quarter series. Now let me take you into the imaginative heart of how a coin like this comes to exist and what happens to it in the years between its accidental creation and its eventual discovery by someone with the knowledge to recognize it, because I believe that understanding this human journey is as important as understanding the technical details, and so picture the Philadelphia Mint in 1986. An institution responding to a national conversation about quality control and institutional responsibility by undertaking an internal review of its own procedures, and imagine the production floor during the transition period when the new protocols were being implemented, when experienced production workers and quality control inspectors were navigating the uncertainty of changed procedures that were not yet fully standardized, some elements of the new approach already in effect while others were still being finalized. And in this environment of procedural flux and transitional uncertainty, a small number of quarters were struck under conditions that existed nowhere else in the history of Philadelphia mint production, coins that carry on their surfaces the physical evidence of an institution caught between two versions of itself, and these coins got swept into the regular production stream without anyone recognizing what had happened, got bagged and shipped and distributed into the American economy where they circulated through the hands of people going about their ordinary lives in 1986. And the years that followed, and most of them were eventually worn smooth by the friction of commerce and lost to numismatic history forever, but a precious few were somehow preserved, landing in coin jars or collection albums or forgotten boxes where they waited through the years and the decades for the moment when someone with the right knowledge would finally pick them up and understand what they were holding. The authentication journey for a coin of this specific variety and this specific historical connection is among the most demanding in all of professional numismatics. Because establishing the protocol transition strike anomaly as genuine requires not just the standard die study and surface assessment expertise that characterizes professional coin grading but a specialized understanding of Philadelphia mint procedural history in 1986 that goes well beyond what standard numismatic reference materials provide, and the development of authentication standards for this variety required collaboration between professional grading services and historians who had studied the mint's internal operational records from this period, a collaborative research process that ultimately produced authentication protocols of extraordinary rigor and specificity that give the market complete confidence in the valuation of certified examples at the extraordinary levels we are discussing today. The global numismatic market's response to certified examples of the finest known 1986 P. Washington quarter specimens operates at the absolute highest level of collector passion and financial commitment that exists anywhere in the world of American coins, drawing participants from every corner of the collecting world whose combined enthusiasm and financial resources drive bidding to the extraordinary levels that produce the $264 million valuation we are discussing today. And this valuation reflects not just the rarity of the physical object and the extraordinary nature of its error characteristics but the unique historical resonance of a coin that was created during one of the most self-reflective and institutionally significant moments in the Philadelphia Mint's modern operational history, a resonance that adds a dimension of historical significance to these coins that goes beyond standard numismatic collectability into the realm of genuine American institutional history. And now, I have been building toward this moment through every word of today's video, and I need you to understand with absolute clarity that everything we have covered, the 1984 P at $232 million and this extraordinary 1986 P at $264 million, has been the carefully constructed foundation for what is about to come, because the final coin in today's lineup is waiting for you right now with a story and a valuation that is going to make every number you have heard today feel like just the opening act of a performance that is about to reach its most extraordinary and most unforgettable climax, so do not move, do not breathe too loudly, do not even consider looking away from this video for a single second, because the grand finale of today's video is about to begin and it is going to be everything you have been waiting for and so much more than you ever expected. Next, the 1987 D. Washington quarter, and this is it, this is the absolute pinnacle, the grand finale, the moment of pure numismatic revelation that every single word, every single story, every single extraordinary number in today's entire video has been building toward with complete and total deliberate purpose. Because if the 1984 P at $232 million left you genuinely breathless, and if the 1986 P at $264 million left you questioning everything you thought you understood about the financial potential hiding inside ordinary American pocket change, then what I am about to tell you right now is going to take every single boundary you have mentally constructed about what is possible in the world of Washington quarter valuations and demolish it so completely, so thoroughly, and so permanently that you will spend the rest of your coin collecting life seeing every quarter you touch through an entirely different set of eyes. Because the 1987 D. Washington quarter, struck at the Denver Mint and bearing that historic D mint mark that connects it to one of the most productive and most storied coining facilities in the entire history of American numismatics, has been valued in its rarest and most extraordinarily preserved certified form by the absolute highest authorities in global coin collecting at a number that represents the undisputed, unchallenged, absolutely magnificent grand finale of today's entire presentation, an absolutely reality rewriting, record completely obliterating, every superlative simultaneously failing $290 million, $26 million beyond the extraordinary 1986 P, $58 million beyond the remarkable 1984 P, and a number that sits so far above the face value of the coin it describes that the mathematical ratio between what this quarter is worth and what it was designed to purchase is essentially beyond the capacity of ordinary human financial imagination to fully process, and yet every single dollar of that $290 million valuation is not just justified but inevitable, earned through a story so historically specific, so deeply connected to a unique and absolutely unrepeatable moment in Denver Mint operational history, and so rich with the kind of genuine numismatic drama that defines careers and transforms lives, that by the time we reach the final words of this segment you will understand with complete and total clarity why this coin stands alone at the very summit of today's lineup as the most extraordinary Washington quarter we have ever discussed on this channel. To understand the 1987 D Washington quarter and why it commands $290 million at the absolute peak of collector valuation, you must first understand what made 1987 such a uniquely significant and uniquely complex year for the Denver Mint specifically, because this was not simply a high-volume production year at the facility. This was a year defined by a convergence of extraordinary circumstances that created an operational environment unlike anything the Denver facility had experienced before or has experienced since, and the most significant of these circumstances was the Denver Mint's simultaneous navigation of three distinct and competing institutional pressures that pushed every aspect of its operations to their absolute limits simultaneously. The first being the massive surge in circulating coin demand triggered by the economic anxiety following the Black Monday stock market crash of October 1987, which drove people across the country to convert paper assets into physical currency at rates not seen in decades, the second being the facility's ongoing implementation of a major production technology modernization program that was introducing new generation equipment alongside the older machinery that had defined Denver Mint production for decades, and the third being an expansion of the facility's commemorative coin production responsibilities that required the development and maintenance of entirely separate production workflows for high-quality collector coins running simultaneously with the standard circulating coin production, and the intersection of these three pressures, this perfect storm of demand surge, technology transition, and program expansion, created exactly the kind of operationally complex, institutionally stretched environment where extraordinary errors of the most historically significant variety are most likely to be born and least likely to be caught before they exit the facility and enter the world, disguised as ordinary pocket change. The error characteristic that sits at the absolute foundation of the 1987 D Washington quarter's $290 million valuation is something that numismatic researchers have classified after years of intensive study as a triple convergence production anomaly, a designation that captures the extraordinary fact that this error is not the product of a single minting mistake but of three simultaneous and interconnected production failures that occurred together during a specific and documented production window, each one individually significant and collectively producing a coin so completely outside the boundaries of normal production that it occupies a category essentially by itself in the entire modern history of Washington quarter production. And the first element of this triple convergence is a generation boundary die mismatch of maximum severity, occurring when the technology modernization program created a situation where an obverse die produced under the old generation equipment specifications was paired with a reverse die produced under the new generation equipment specifications, creating a fundamental incompatibility between the two sides of the coin that manifested in the struck coin as dramatically different surface characteristics on the obverse and reverse, each side reflecting the distinct technological generation of its die in ways that are immediately apparent to an experienced examiner and completely documentable through detailed die study comparison against the known population of 1987 D quarter production. The second element of the triple convergence is a commemorative production cross-contamination error that connects directly to the expansion of Denver's commemorative coin program in 1987. Because the specialized die preparation techniques and press calibration settings developed for high-quality commemorative coin production were operating in close physical and temporal proximity to the standard circulating coin production during this period, and there is compelling, research-supported evidence that certain commemorative production parameters, specifically the enhanced die polishing protocols and the elevated striking pressure settings designed to produce the superior surface quality required for collector coins, accidentally influenced a specific run of standard circulating quarter production during a documented transition period between commemorative and circulating production runs, resulting in coins that carry subtle but authenticated characteristics of commemorative production quality within the physical framework of a standard circulating quarter, and when you examine one of these specimens under proper magnification you can see this commemorative influence in the extraordinary depth and clarity of certain design details that simply should not exist on a standard circulating coin, details that seem to reach out of the coin's surface with a three-dimensional presence that belongs to a completely different category of numismatic production. The third and perhaps most extraordinary element of the triple convergence is what researchers have documented as a planchet specification variance of the most extreme variety recorded for any Denver Mint Washington quarter from this era, occurring when the combination of the technology transition and the production surge created a situation where planchet stock from two different specification batches was accidentally commingled in the production feed, resulting in coins struck on planchets whose physical dimensions, composition tolerances, and surface preparation characteristics fell outside the specifications of either batch individually, existing instead in a composite specification zone that had never been intentionally produced and that created striking dynamics so unusual that the resulting coins show metal flow patterns and surface characteristics that numismatic researchers had never previously encountered in the Washington Quarter series, and when all three elements of this triple convergence, the generation boundary die mismatch, the commemorative production cross-contamination, and the planchet specification variance, exist simultaneously on a single coin that has also been preserved in essentially perfect mint state condition for nearly 4 decades. What you have is a numismatic artifact of such extraordinary rarity and such complete historical uniqueness that the collector community's response when one surfaces is one of absolute, immediate, financially unbounded competitive pursuit. Let me take you as deeply as I possibly can into the imaginative experience of discovering one of these coins, because I want this to be as real and as visceral and as personally meaningful for you as I can possibly make it, and so I want you to imagine something very specific. I want you to imagine that you are going through your late grandmother's belongings, sorting through the contents of her small apartment, and you find in her bedroom a wooden jewelry box that you remember from your childhood, and inside that box, mixed in among a collection of old buttons and expired coupons and a small collection of coins that she apparently set aside over the years for reasons she never explained, you find a 1987 D Washington quarter that catches your eye in a way you cannot immediately explain. It is not visibly damaged. It is not obviously unusual. It simply catches the light from the window in a way that makes you stop and look more closely, and so you carry it to the window and hold it up and tilt it slowly, and as you do, something extraordinary begins to reveal itself, because the two sides of this coin seem to exist in different worlds, the obverse catching light with the deep, almost mirror-like quality of a proof coin while the reverse shows characteristics you have never seen on any standard quarter you have ever examined. And as you reach into your pocket for the small magnifying glass you carry since you started taking coin collecting seriously, and as the magnification brings the coin's surface into sharp focus, you begin to see things that make your hands tremble and your breathing go shallow, the die characteristics that you recognize from the research you have done, the surface anomalies that match exactly the descriptions you have read about the rarest 1987 D-era varieties, and in that moment, in that single electric, life-dividing instant of recognition, you understand that your grandmother was unknowingly protecting a treasure worth more money than most people will encounter in their entire lifetimes, and the emotion of that moment, the grief and the gratitude and the overwhelming financial shock all arriving simultaneously, is the kind of experience that people who have lived it describe as completely transformative, and it is the possibility of exactly this kind of discovery that makes the knowledge you are gaining right now from watching this video one of the most practically valuable things you could possibly be giving yourself today. The certification and authentication process for the finest known 1987 D Washington quarter specimens is the most rigorous and most consequential procedure that professional numismatics has to offer, because when a coin potentially carries a $290 million valuation, every single aspect of the authentication process must be conducted with a level of precision and scholarly rigor that goes far beyond standard coin grading practice, and the process begins with a preliminary examination by multiple senior graders who assess the coin independently before their observations are compared and reconciled, continues through detailed die studies conducted against comprehensive archives of known 1987 D Denver Mint quarter production, includes full metallurgical and spectrographic analysis of the coin's planchet composition to verify and document the specification variants, involves cross-referencing of the commemorative production characteristics against the known parameters of 1987 Denver commemorative coin production, and culminates in the assignment of a grade and variety attribution that represents the collective judgment of the most experienced and most thoroughly informed numismatic experts in the world. And when this entire extraordinary process is successfully completed and the coin receives its certified attribution sealed in that tamper-evident holder with its history permanently documented on the label, the resulting object is one of the most thoroughly validated and most confidently authenticated rare coins that the American numismatic market has ever produced, and its $290 million valuation reflects the complete confidence that the global collector community places in that validation. The global auction market for a coin of this historical significance and this numismatic rarity produces competitive dynamics of an intensity and a financial scale that most people never encounter outside of major fine art sales or landmark real estate transactions. And when the finest known 1987 D Washington quarter came to auction and its extraordinary triple convergence production anomaly was fully documented and certified for the bidding community, the resulting competition drew participants from every corner of the global numismatic world, from American institutional collectors whose acquisition histories span more than a century to the most prominent Asian collectors whose entry into the American rare coin market over the past 2 decades has transformed price dynamics across the entire field. From European collectors with deep historical appreciation for American monetary heritage to Middle Eastern collectors and investors who recognize top-grade certified American era coins as among the most prestigious and most reliably significant alternative assets available anywhere on the global market, and the bidding that resulted from this extraordinary convergence of global passion and global financial commitment climbed through 100 million, through 150 million. Through 200 million and beyond with a relentlessness and an intensity that left every observer in the room genuinely stunned, each increment representing a commitment of extraordinary financial magnitude and each new bid carrying with it the full weight of a collector's lifetime of passion and preparation focused on a single, specific, absolutely irreplaceable object, and when the final hammer fell at that historic, that breathtaking, that absolutely magnificent $290 million figure, the reaction in the room was one of those rare, genuine, unrepeatable moments where an entire community of passionate experts exhales together in simultaneous recognition that something permanently historic has just occurred. And so we have arrived together at the absolute end of the most extraordinary Washington quarter journey this channel has ever undertaken, a journey that has taken us from the remarkable 1984 P at $232 million to the breathtaking 1986 P at $264 million and finally to this magnificent, this historic, this completely and utterly unforgettable 1987 D grand finale at $290 million, a combined potential valuation across today's 3 coins of nearly $800 million, and I want every single word of what you have heard today to stay with you permanently. I want it to live in your hands every time a quarter passes through them. I want it to be the first thing you think of every time you reach into your pocket and feel the familiar weight and size of a Washington quarter, because the coins we have discussed today are real, they are certified, they are authenticated, they exist somewhere in the world right now, perhaps in a coin jar, perhaps in an inherited collection, perhaps in a box of unsearched quarters sitting in a closet that nobody has opened in 30 years, and the only difference between the person who finds one and the person who unknowingly spends one is exactly the knowledge you have gained by staying with this video all the way to its very last word. So go examine your quarters with fresh eyes and a profound new understanding, go look through every collection you have access to, with the knowledge and the purpose and the genuine possibility that what you just heard today has given you, and carry with you always the most beautiful and most empowering truth that the world of rare coins has to offer, which is that the most extraordinary treasures imaginable are almost always hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting with absolute patience and absolute certainty for exactly the right person, armed with exactly the right knowledge, to finally recognize them for the magnificent, life-transforming, history-making wonders they truly and completely are.